objective is that we are going to review addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division integer rules. For this week and probably next week, we're going to go ahead and we're going to pick some of those standards, some of the parts of what we learned in quarter one that we struggled with. We're going to spend some extra time practicing and relearning some of the stuff that we might have struggled with. So today we're going to talk about our integer rules, which is our addition, subtraction, multiplication, and divisions with our positive and negative numbers. So I want you to go ahead and I want you to think about this before I go over it. So I want you to pause this and then go ahead and figure out where this scuba diver will end. All right, at this point, you should have already gone ahead and paused it. So I'm going to work through it with you. So a scuba diver swam down 25 feet. Well, he's going to start at 0. So then he's going to go down 10, 20, and halfway between 20 and 30 is going to put us down 25 feet. Then he's going to go down 10 more feet. So down to 30 is 5, and down between 30 and 40 is down another 10 feet. Then he's going to turn around from that 35, negative 35, he's going to go up to negative 30. And then he's going to turn around again and go down 50 feet. So down 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. So then he went down 50 feet again. He's going to turn around and go up from there 65 feet. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 65. And then lastly, he's going to go down 45 feet. So down, let me pick a color I have not used. I hope you can see this one. So down 5 at negative 20, and then 15, 20, 5, 35, and 45. So he's going to end at 60 feet below. Is that what you said? I really like this example because it gets you to think about your positives and your negatives in a real life example. And it's really good that vertical number line actually kind of pictures the scuba diver going up and down, and it's a really good way to start thinking about some positives and negatives. So if you haven't already, these notes are on Schoology, and remember, we're going to start submitting our guided notes for a grade. So if you have a printer, you can go ahead and print this and fill this out. Otherwise, you can write down the key points and send me a picture of that. So when we are adding and they have the same sign, you are going to add the absolute values. So you are going to, oops, let me change it to a color we can read now. Add our absolute values. What that means is you are going to add them and keep the common sign. So a positive plus a positive is going to give you a bigger positive. A negative plus, and I'm right here, a negative and a negative is going to be a bigger negative. Think if you go up high 5 feet, then you go up 3 more, you're going up that high. Or if you drop down 5 feet and then drop down another 5 feet, that's just going to be a combination of all the distances you went up or down. So, for example, positive 5 and positive 8, you'd rather add them like they have no signs. 5 and 8 give me 13. Because they're both positive, it's going to become a greater positive, so 13. Same thing with negative 2 and negative 3. We're going to ignore the signs. We know 2 plus 3 is 5. Because they're both negative, it's going to be a negative 5. I think it says in a second, but I really like to think of money. You spend $2 and then you spend 3 more. You spend $2 on maybe a bag of chips and $3 on, I don't know, a bracelet. You spend $2 on a bag of chips and $3 on bracelet. You lost $5 in all. All right. So what if they have different signs? You are going to subtract their absolute values and use the sign of the higher number with the higher absolute value. So you ignore the signs. Like if I had, let's look at these examples. Higher absolute value. So like on this first example, I have a positive 5 and a negative 8. We would ignore the signs, say that 8 minus 5 is 3, and then we would determine 8 is bigger than 5. So we're going to keep the sign of 8, so it's going to be a negative 3. And let me rewrite that because it turned out wonky, me trying to add a negative sign. And then the same thing on the second one. I have a negative 2 and a positive 3, so we're going to ignore the signs. So 3 minus 2 is 1. And then we're going to say 3 is bigger than 2, and the sign of 3 is positive. So it's going to be a positive 1. So think an ascent can partially cancel out a decent. So if I go down, but then I go back up, we're partially canceling out some of what we went down. Or a decent can partially overcome an ascent. So I went up this far, but then I went down this far. So like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, we partially canceled out how far we've gone. All right, our subtracting, we know in order to subtract, we are not going to subtract integers. We're going to change them to addition by switching the operation to addition while changing the sign of the second number to keep an equivalent. So we know that we're going to use our keep, change. Keep the first number, change subtraction to addition, and change the sign of the second number. And then you would add using your addition rules that we just talked about. All right, and our examples. So I'm going to write these bigger. I have 5. Why did I write K? Keep 5 minus negative 8. So we're going to keep this 5, change the subtraction to addition, and change that negative to positive. So keep, change. And then we have 2 positives, so 5 plus 8 equals 13. All right, and then again, the same thing. We have negative 2 we're going to keep. We're going to change subtraction to addition, and we're going to change that positive 3 to negative. And then we are adding 2 negatives, so they're the same. We're just going to say 2 plus 3 is 5, and it's negative 5 because we recalled our rule for adding 2 negatives is that you're just going to make it a bigger negative. So remember, another great analogy for understanding integers is money. Positive means you're getting money. Negative means you're losing money. Think about adding and removing credits and debits. So you spend money, you're losing money. You get a check from your work, you're getting credited money. Removing debt is a positive movement. Think removing descent is actually rising again. And removing a recent ascent is the same as descending again. So multiplying and dividing have the same rules. You're going to multiply and divide like you normally would, and then look at your signs. So if both signs match, the answer will be positive. And if they don't, it will be negative. So for example, 4 divided by 2, ignore the signs, is 2. Positive and a negative, so it's a negative. And then 5 times 8, because we're ignoring the signs, is 40. Positive and a positive. This was negative. Blended in with my 2. And then a positive or a negative and a negative, same signs, so it's going to be a positive. So let's look at a word problem. It says Alicia withdrew $45 for a bank account. Withdrew. I want you to underline that. Withdrew means we're losing money from her bank account. Later that day, she deposited $80. I deposit money in my bank account, that means I'm gaining money. Then she wrote a check for $250, which means she lost $250. Last, she spent another $55, so she's losing money from her account. What was her total gain or loss in funds from the account that day? So let's say she started at 0. So then we can total how much she gained and lost. We subtract 45 because she went down 45. So we're at negative 45. We have a negative. Now we're going to add 80 to that loss of 45. So positive, negative, we're going to subtract and keep the bigger sign. So 80 minus 45 leaves us with 10, 5, borrow 35. So from a loss of 45 to a gain of 80, we're up $35, but then she goes ahead and spends $250. So now we're gonna lose $250. So positive and a negative, we're gonna subtract, keep our bigger sign. So 250 minus 35, borrow. 10 minus 5 is 5. 4 minus 3 is 1. 2 minus nothing is 2. And then this is negative because that loss of 250 is bigger than the 35 she already had. So we're 250 in the hole. Then she spends more money. So 55 and 215, because they're both negative, we're going to add them together and keep the sign of the larger one. 5 and 5 is 10. 1 and 5 is 6, plus the one we carried is 7. 2 and nothing is 2. They were both negative. So, in all, she lost $270 more than she got. All right, then let's look at a couple of examples. We know with our addition, when we're adding two negatives, we do what? Actually, I lie. You tell me. I want you to do 1 through 7. And then I'll go through them. So pause this so that you can check your rules. You should already know how to do this. This is review. But we reviewed our rules, and now I want you to do it. Awesome. So now you've gone ahead and you've paused this. So we're adding two negatives. So I spent $4, then I spent 16 more. So I know two negatives being added is going to give me a bigger negative. 14 and 16 means 20. We lost $20 in all. Then I have a positive and a negative when we're adding. We know our rule for adding with different signs is that we subtract and keep the sign of the larger absolute value. So ignore our signs. 12 minus 9 is 3. 12 is bigger than 9, so we're going to keep the sign of 12. Then on example 3, we're dividing two negatives, so we'll ignore our signs. 24 divided by 3 is 8. Same sign becomes a positive. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Different signs, so negative. And then example 5, 6, and 7. Remember, we have to do our keep, change, change. So keep, change, change. Two negatives, add them and make a bigger negative. So 8, 38, bigger negative. Again, keep, change, change. Two positive become a bigger positive. And again, keep, change, change. Positive and negative, subtract, keep this bigger sign. So 40 minus 35 is 5. Positive 40 is bigger than 35 and 40 is positive. So our answer is going to be positive. All right, I want you to go ahead and pause this and attempt these. These are multi-step, but you should be able to do them. All right, so we had 3 plus negative 5, a positive and a negative, gave us, you would subtract and keep the bigger sign. So 5 minus 3 is 2. 5 is bigger, and it's negative. Negative 2 plus 8, again, positive, negative, subtract and keep the bigger sign. 8 minus 2 is 6, and positive 8 is bigger. So same thing on this next one. I have negative 2 plus negative 5. Two negatives make a bigger negative, so 2 plus 5 is 7, bigger negative. Then negative 7 plus negative 4 again. Two negatives become a bigger negative, so 7 and 4 is 11, and it's going to become a bigger negative. And then here we're just multiplying and paying attention to our signs. So 4 times 5 is 20. 1 times 3 is 3. 4 and 5, 1 positive, 1 negative, that's negative. 1 and 3, 1 positive, 1 negative, that's negative. And then 20 times 3 is 60. They're both negative, so it comes positive. Look at our note. When multiplying or dividing 3 or more integers, if the number of negatives is even, the answer will be positive. If the number is odd, it will stay negative. So if you look, we started off with 2, which is an even number, and we got a positive answer. Let's check the second one. 4 times negative 2 gives me 8. Positive and negative give me a negative. 3 times negative 5. 3 times 5 is 15. Both of them negative, so it's going to become a positive times 2. Well, 15 times 2 is 30. And then negative 8 times 30. Well, 8 times 3 is 24. Throw a 0 at the end. Positive, negative. So we have 1, 2, 3 negative in this one. We ended with a negative. So, I want you to go ahead. Our objective was that you could review your addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, rules. I want you to summarize those rules for me and say what those. Well, so what did it do? It was 1, 2, 3, 4. You're combining multiplication, division, addition, same sign, addition, different sign, subtraction, and then your multiplication and division. 4 different steps. But I want you to explain how that works and put that on. You've got a note and submit those for a grade. And then you go ahead and do that work on Schoology. If you feel so comfortable with this is your review, go ahead and do that work on Schoology. If you are still struggling with this, please come to our practice. All right, guys, have a great day.